Here you can see that so here you can see that we don't really have any parameters for this shader, and the thing about this shader is that it's not your regular shader. That's everything's done inside of the node graph, and you just kind of have your parameters laid out in here, and you cannot change anything after the shader is established. So what the shader does is it utilizes the layering system, which lets you add, well, maybe not unlimited, but a lot of different shaders on top of each other. So we have a background shader with all of its parameters that you can change. Then I'm applying the same material on top of it. Let's just so we have this ML material, which is basically putting the material attributes, and the base material is just a simple material. This is just a tree planner if I need it. And so we have like input the material attributes, then we have the overlay, the tree planner shader. See, that goes into the blend, and this is the world normals. So if I need this shader to be on top of another one, like on the z-axis, just on top of the sphere, or if I need the tree planner mapping, all controls through here. And then I have the blend asset, which is the base tree planner mask, like this, that we have two material attributes that blend material attributes into the output, and the mask with the texture that you can apply to it. And another one is material layer blend follow, just basically the same thing. It just utilizes the follow over here, which again just takes the z-axis or whatever axis that you pick in here. You can invert it, do whatever, and it outputs the black and white mask for you. So that's the base material. And so you can see that it's the same material on top of each other with different parameters. And for the blend I used this mask, which I just kind of searched in Google, downloaded the image that I thought had a good enough variation, and for the blend it just picks the lightness of this to blend between them. And for the second asset I used the same material as the first one. As you can see in here that we have the same textures, but then I had one more I had one more kind of mask texture that just overlaid on top of the base color. So basically what I had in the end are these guys, which is if I turn off the top layer and if I turn off all of the layers except the base one, the background, you should have the base geometry, as you can see here. So it's just a sandstone cliff or sandstone, whatever it is. You can clearly see where I placed them. Oh, they're just over here, nowhere else. Yeah, but anyhow, on top of this I overlaid this image with the mask, and you can clearly see how much more details we have out of those just by overlaying the photo texture. And the reason I did the tree planner maps in here is because I didn't know where and how in the world they would be placed, and also the UV maps of each of this asset is kind of, as far as I know, randomly rotated, and I needed them to kind of follow the gravitational direction, right? So you can see here that it flows gently from top to bottom. And the last one is on the z-axis overlaying on top the grass material, which for the close-up you can see that it's really bad, like quite literally bad. But from our perspective, it works. And so this is the base shading for those cliffs. Now let's turn on our ForestTools objects, and as you can see, everything here is ForestTools. And everything is placed inside of the FT folder. And I'm sorry for the lagginess, it's because I'm on the remote connection in here. So it's not that it's scene lags, it's just that the remote connection is kind of unstable a little bit. So yeah. So at the end, what are my trees that I used in here, right? So you can clearly see that those are not the older trees that I used at the beginning. So if you look at the meshes in here, you can see that those are the European hornbeams. And this one, these and all of these ones are actually their original size. I didn't change them at all. But for the bottom part, these are not bushes. These are pretty much the same trees. I just scaled them down to 0.3 to fit the look and area of what I need, and to make it closer to the concept that we had. Now there are still some smaller bushes and stuff, and those are, I believe, raspberry and whatnot. But yeah, basically all of these are scattered with the spline. So you can see if I pick any one of them, I just drew a spline from the top view, and then I used the project spline to landscape, and that's about it. Played around with the settings, and this is probably the only one that's a little bit different. I still use the spline method, but in the filtering tab I use the slope filter, and I choose the minimum angle to be 25 so that they don't spawn on the flat surfaces but only on this kind of hillside, to make it a little bit more interesting. And so yeah, you can see I made here some lake, and the shader I took, I believe, from the some of the Epic's free project, like City Park or something. I don't really remember exactly what it was. But you can see, oh yeah, there's a lot of grass that's kind of invisible the further away you go, but if you do the path tracing, it's gonna be visible. Yeah, the shaders need to be recalculated. Once again, when you like going into the close-up of this scene, or in some sort of a mid-ground, right? Go into it. This is like, this looks really empty, like there's nothing to it. Those patches don't really look that natural, right? These trees don't make any sense whatsoever. These are forest trees. There's no way if it gets this much sun it would be this bald in here. But everything is according to camera, so the further you go, and if we take a look at our camera, we can clearly see that whatever we see, well, that I only focused on areas that we see and can distinguish from afar. And that brings us to the camera settings. Let me just take the camera. Let's see here, the film back. You see here, I used a 16:9 digital film and cropped it to 239, which, to be honest, right now I found that this setup is so incorrect because Unreal Engine, the MRQ, is not rendering it the way it's supposed to render, like it's not taking the aspect ratio from your screen. You could technically render at like full HD resolution and then cut it out if you need to, which in my case I thought it was really weird why they did this, because when you render at full HD you're gonna have the black lines, which is super weird coming from the raw render. So, but yeah, that's what I did. I did a 16:9, I cropped it to 239, and then then there's a different issue with it. So when you have the crop settings in here, and well, your frame right now is basically 16:9, right? Because there's no cropping, there's nothing. And all of the passes are gonna work correctly with it. But once you turn on any of these and your camera shifts a little bit, because it has basically different cropping sensor, your let's say Z depth pass is going to use the 16:9. It doesn't know that you cropped the sensor, so it's gonna render very differently from what you see here, which is extremely annoying. And it was so much trial and error to find out what was the issue, and it was this guy. So yeah, keep that in mind if you're going to render with any kind of cropping settings and you're gonna use Z depth or any other additional channel in the Nuke or any other compositing program. So back to our camera actor. The focal length is 20, and the reason I picked 20 is because 24 was a little bit too close, because this place is kind of enclosed in here. So if we do this, we can see that we get a lot more of our subject, but we lose a lot of this magnificent background, mountains. So, and the reason I didn't like do 16 is because it had, to me, a little bit too much of a distortion, and it had the feeling of it being like a drone camera or some, you know, cheap lens. So I did 20, and the aperture really doesn't matter. I don't think I did. I didn't render with the depth of field with any of that. So, and the aperture here doesn't change anything at all because we have the post-process material that is at zero exposure and everything is basically zeroed out. So I took the let's take a look at our lighting in here. So if I zoom out of everything, you can see that we don't have, well, basically we don't have anything in here. We have some sun because you can clearly see the shadows, and they are pretty visible in Lumen because Lumen kind of sucks, but in bus tracing, let me just check it here. Yeah, you can still see that it's darker than the top part and the front part. So yeah, we have the, let me just turn everything off except for the post-process volume. So what I did is I used the default daylight in here with the density of 1. Just, it's supposed to render, and then the directional light, you can see that I use the source angle and the soft angle are quite big to fill up the scene. So basically if I bring in here the sky atmosphere, you can see how big the sky is. That's why we have soft shadows in here. So, but basically, yeah, the skylight is just the daylight HDRI that comes with the Unreal Engine by default. And I believe I tweaked, yeah, I removed the saturation to 0.5. Then comes the exponential fog, and to see it properly we're gonna turn on the path tracing. So you can see in here without the exponential height fog, and this is what I have with the exponential height fog. So what did I do? The fog density I put at 0.6 without any follow to the top. I used the volumetric fog. The albedo, I think, yeah, I didn't change it much. It's a little bit bluish, and the view distance is 300,000 units with the extinction scale of 0.05. And that's basically my lighting setup for this scene. And you can see it runs quite well. Now, next thing about it is my render settings. So I go here and do my pipe in here, and this was not for this shot because I later rendered the shot with the person in it, so I needed more samples. But what I basically rendered in here was like 16 by 12 anti-aliasing with the path tracer, the default render elements, which I'm not sure I used later on in the Nuke the object ID, the EXR with multi-layer, the screen percentage at 150, ray tracing mode to 1, geometry instance mesh VPO to 1, which didn't really work. I don't know why Epic said it would, it didn't. Yeah, and path tracing to -1, which corresponds to whatever I put in here into the post-process volume, so it should use everything that's checked in here in the well, basically your final render. And the output was 2560 by 1080 at I believe it was 24 fps. Yeah, it's 24 fps, and yeah, that's about it. It was quite fast to render because we didn't have that much frames, that much samples to calculate. And yeah, so now we are in Nuke, and you can see that I didn't do much in here. So we have our base render from Unreal Engine, which looks basically what you just saw in there. Then I did just a second, I did shuffle the world depth with very annoying bug from Unreal Engine. I mean, I really hate it, because when you do this and you look for values, like you have 0.99 here, you have 0.21 here, 0.6, 0.8, right? So the further it is, the bigger the value, and then suddenly on the edge you have a complete zero. But it's an Epic problem, so I'm not sure what they're doing with it, that it renders like this. So let's see. Then I did a little bit of gamma correction for the shadows. I made them a little bit more reddish, yellowish. And then I basically upped a little bit the saturation because I thought it was a little bit too bleak. And again, the saturation a little bit more with the everything for everything. And here I only used those trees for the bigger boost of the saturation. Then I picked all of these and made them more green, all of these trees. So it's I'm not even sure if you're gonna see the difference in on YouTube, but if you're working with Nuke, you know that all of these are quite useful. And yeah, so here I'm just picking the clips, then I erode the mask, I blur it out, I merge it with the base mask, I grade this alpha, and what it basically does is it boosts a little bit the highlights you can see in here of the flat areas, so the look isn't as flat as it came out from Unreal Engine. Then I picked the white flowers, and I'm not sure why it's not working. Right now, flowers are here. Do 5, 20, date. No. 5.51. Not sure what's going on, but you know, let me just repeat this, see if it helps. Let me create this again. So yeah, you can see I just removed some contrast, and because it was a little bit too much, and I believe it should has these flowers as well. Yeah, so they don't stand out as much as they were on the final image. This one was disabled. Now a little bit of vignetting in here. You can see, oh no, it's an animated texture. Yeah, so I basically just play around, because in Unreal I couldn't make the exact lighting that I needed, so I played around with some values in here. So you can see that I just upped a little bit the brightness of this clip in particular, and then up the brightness as a whole. And in here, if we're going for the mask, you can see that I placed some kind of fog in here, and it's basically not really a fog card because it's not in 3D space. Like if I go in here, you can see that I don't have any cards placed in here, but I did some roto brushes that I animated along whatever I needed. Then I used the blur and roughen edges to basically rough it up. I created the alpha, then I picked only the bottom part of the environment. I mask it out so that it only affects those areas. And you see, oh yeah, I basically removed the fog from this area with the black point, because it was really a little bit too foggy, like all the values here blended together too much. So I decided that this should have less fog. Well, basically not me, because every time I'm doing any project, I constantly trying to get as much feedback as I can as I move on with the stuff, because when you look at something for too long, or like you're on the crossroad, or you don't know what to do, this is basically what helps me. Is I'm going to Discord, showing my still frame, single frame, and I ask for feedback, for whatever feedback they can come up with, and I see if I can implement it or not. Then let's see what we have here. Yeah, as you can see, those black lines, that happens because you remember the cropping that we were talking about, and in my final resolution I didn't render at full HD. I did render at 2560 by 1080, and it just wasn't perfect crop for this for whatever reason. And so yeah, I just scaled it up a little bit, and I reformat back to our format. The grade, I'm not sure we need the grade. An anamorphic distortion without a depth of field and breathless. Then we have the virtual lens with a little bit of astigmatism, and I believe the vignette, yeah, elation is off and haze is off. Yeah, Then what we had is the alpha one on the back, so that we don't have any artifacts if we want to, let's say, export it out. Then the three nodes are the color grading of the shot, so a little bit more of the less gamma, more gain, the black point, again gamma, and basically more blue. And then we have the final vignetting. No, yeah, I added the final halation in here, which added that a little bit extra of halation on the back out there. So yeah, that's pretty much all about the scene. So as you can see, with the ForestTools and basically in Unreal Engine, this scene was rendered lightning fast, and I made all of these scatters that are very flexible because I can change whatever I want, and it'll just update automatically to whatever I do. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.